Hi everyone, it's Simon Massey here from the Manchester Metropolitan Q-Step Centre. In this video I'm going to give you a brief example of how to start telling stories with very basic forms of data. Now, storytelling in data analysis is really important, particularly when you're trying to engage a particular audience and you want your research to have an impact. Because if you have an audience that is captivated and is really listening to your findings, listening to the data that you're presenting, then you're going to have more success in trying to make the arguments and trying to make the changes and differences that you want to with your data-driven research. And let's face it, you can have really nice, colourful charts and present your findings in interesting ways, but if you don't have the skills to tell a story, then your audience isn't going to be very captivated. And if they're not very captivated or they're not interested in what it is that you're presenting, you're going to have a harder time making that difference and making the impact that you want to. So what I'm going to do in this video is just give a really brief example using the ways in which music has been purchased over the last 40 years from the 70s. And we're going to sort of explore how we have very different ways in which music can be purchased in order to try and help us then think, how can we tell a story with that information? So what you have here is a pie chart with a large green chunk at 62%, where people purchase music via an LP, otherwise known as EP. If you don't know what that is just this large black disc on the left here. That would often contain an album from a particular music artist, and it would have all the latest songs on it. And back in 73, this was obviously the most popular way to go out there and buy music. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make this pie chart come to life. And what you're going to see is a pattern and trend emerge, where in the 70s we clearly see that LP was the most popular choice. But look, as we go through to the 80s, the yellow slice starts to become bigger and bigger very quickly. You can see cassettes became really popular in the 80s. Fast forward that through to the 90s and look at this red slice getting bigger and bigger. That's CDs becoming very, very popular. And as we emerge into the 2000s, CD was by far the most popular way to buy music, so much more than the others. And as you can see, it's starting to decrease and there's a lot more options as to how you can buy music. Now the data stops in 2012. Just looking at that pie chart, you can see a very different pie chart to the first one that was presented in this video. Lots of different ways to buy music. And if I bring the previous pie chart up, you can clearly see lots of different colours going on and very different percentages. And just to focus on the EP for a second, let's tell a story about the EP. We can see that the EP took around 62% of purchases in 73. And you could look at that and compare it to 2012, it's just 2.3%. So that's a very, very large difference when it comes to purchasing LPs over the space of almost 40 years. But what other stories do you think you might be able to tell with this, looking at these two charts? If you think about the fact that this is in 2012, so that's 8 years ago from when this video is being done, look at this download single at 23%, so almost a quarter. Downloading albums at another 17%. Look at this subscription and streaming, this slice here, 8%. There is clearly something going on there in terms of the internet and what that did. We've got mobile purchases happening. And this subscription and streaming at 8%, I imagine that is a lot higher now in 2020 with things like Spotify and Apple Music. So think about the stories you might be able to tell there. So we can clearly see two pie charts showing differences in how people purchase music. So we can see a pattern. We've identified something, but we need to build an understanding as to how this has happened. And there's different stories going on. Were LPs an expensive way to purchase music and CDs more cheaper? Has the internet completely changed how we purchase music? Is downloading more convenient? Would they rather download or would they rather have the physical thing of a CD? Lots of different stories you can tell just from two pie charts. And what you need to do is you need to think about how you can tell a story with the data you've been analysing in this intensive. So I've just sort of shown a very brief example of how you can show how the EP or the LP was the most popular way to buy music in the 70s, and in 2012 it became a measly sliver in comparison to other ways to buy music. LPs and EPs are becoming more popular again now. Why is that? What is it that's made people want to have them again? Think about the data that you have with the Opinions and Lifestyle survey and also the Attitudes to Animal Research survey. Think about how you can make some tables, put them in your Word document, and then see if you can develop a narrative to them. Try telling a story, try telling us what's going on with that data set, whether there's any patterns in terms of animal research attitudes, or any patterns in terms of people's well-being. So is there something that you think you could talk about with that? And be sure to check out our other intensives on the vast options of data analysis so that you can develop your storytelling skills with data.